If you sell flowers online, particularly in Bogota, the information we are going to show you here will surely be of interest to you. How have we been selling online for 14 years without paying for ads, without social media interaction, without a store for customer service, and with sustained growth? Let's look at the growth that has occurred over the last 14 years. This is the growth in sales. My name is Gabriel Garzon. I'm an electronic engineer. I worked for 13 years doing maintenance on large computers and communication networks at the American Embassy, at the Bogota Telephone Company, at Ecopetrol, and the Office of the Comptroller General of the Republic. After that, I worked for 12 years selling those same devices to banks like Citibank, Grupo Aval, and Davivienda. If you follow these strategies that give us results today, we do not guarantee that you will achieve the same results because those depend on many other factors. On the other hand, the activities we do not do today, it is possible that we will do them in the future, and very likely, many of them we will do. Let's look at 4 activities we do not do. What are the 4 activities we do not do? The first, we do not answer phone calls. The second, we do not sell physically in any store. The third, we do not pay for ads to anyone, so they're on the internet, nor in newspapers, nor on Facebook, nor anywhere. Third, we do not actively participate in any social network. Let's look at 8 reasons for not answering phone calls. The first reason is that, although it is true, at the beginning we did answer phone calls, after a while we realized it was better not to, because showing images on a phone call is not possible. It's also difficult to give instructions over the phone. Telling the gentleman, go to the page on this side, type such a link, click on the right side, look to the left side, that's complicated. After that, they also pretend they're going to undo us, which is called a telephone order. If we were to also receive an order by phone, it is not easy, because there is a possibility of errors. The person said that the friend's name was Maria, and we understood it was Mary, etc. So the possibility of errors increases. Additionally, there is no evidence of the conversation. It happened to us on some occasions that the client said, no, but I had told a lady such and such, right? The 6th reason is that many people, even though we're in the 21st century, call you and say, do me a favor, I'll give you this number on a card so you can receive the payment. What? That's not possible. On the other hand, the operator is left unable. We would see some people answering a call suddenly to 15 minutes with a phone, and well, they really can't do much, because with a phone you can only handle 1 call. It's not possible to handle more than 1 call, and on the other hand, the cost of sales increases. Let's look at 6 reasons not to sell directly in a store. We opened so that people could come in. However, while it is true that a store has a lot of cachet, it gave a lot of publicity, especially for the neighbours. If one closes the store, the chances of robberies decrease. Robberies noticeably decrease. Hidden thefts are avoided, which are the thefts when 3 or 4 people arrive, one distracts the person attending while another enters and steals the cell phone, the chocolates. There is also a distraction for the florist, because we have several florists, and the florists normally have a work plan. When a person arrives wanting to make a purchase, then their work plan falls apart, because the florist has to neglect those priorities. On the other hand, the person who arrives usually wants us to place the order online. Almost never does it. They do it on their cell phone saying, please do it for me there. If we had the store open, we would have to set up a waiting area, because the arrangements take time to make. Then the person says, make the arrangement, I'll wait for it, and all this increases the cost of sales. Let's look at 4 reasons not to pay for ads. Ads, especially on the internet, work based on auctions. That means if I want to appear on a site with a lot of traffic, with a keyword that has a lot of traffic, it turns out I'm not the only one. There are many people, and every day there are more. And what does that mean? That means you have to pay more. Fair still, because they work based on auctions. On the other hand, making an ad is not just saying, let's spend $2,000 to make an ad, but you have to make a work plan, decide which niche we are going to target, which flyers we are going to distribute, create an entire campaign, which products we're going to put on promotion. It's not just saying it only takes time and money. Additionally, the ads are very inefficient. Did you know, for example, that your ad, when you place it there, if that ad is shown 10,000 times, how many people do you think click on the ad? It turns out that out of 10,000 views, only 100 people click on the ad. Out of 10,000, 100 people click. And out of the 100 people who click, 1 person buys. The efficiency is minimal. On the internet, it is minimal, because there is a very large competition that I enter and look at a page. I do not find it attractive. I pay click. Very quickly, I get to the other page. And the conversion rate, we said it's about 1%, and we're not making that up. Normally that is the figure, and in a study conducted by the Columbian Chamber, which is the CC, the CCC, in the year 2023 showed this graph, which on average in the year 2022 shows that out of every 100 people who visit an e-commerce site, only 1 makes a purchase. 1.5, that is 1 rounded. I mean, it is extremely low. And we are talking about the average, because the average means that while it is true there are some on a website or some e-commerce sites that sell a little more, that is, they have a conversion rate of 3, 4, 5%, there are other sites that do not sell anything at all. So this is the average between those who sell and those who do not sell. Let's continue. So to summarize, why don't we pay for ads? The first is that we already said they work in the form of auctions. There is no time or money, and moreover, they are very inefficient. Let's say a fourth point, and it's that if the ad doesn't turn out well, which is what we expect, then a traffic spike occurs. And if you have 4 agents for when you don't have ads, if the ads go well, the 4 agents or the 4 florists won't be enough for you. This data is very interesting, and I want you to remember it. It turns out that in e-commerce, the statistic is that out of every 100 visitors that arrive, those visitors, 66, come from Google and 11% come from social networks. This is proof that definitely Google is the one that brings the traffic. Don't tell us more lies. Google is the one that brings traffic to commercial websites, unless the page is already known and the person enters looking for it as a direct channel. This is the average. So there are some that are fewer and others that are more. But the average in e-commerce sites is that out of every 100 visitors, 66 come from Google and 11 come from social networks. 5 reasons not to participate in social networks. First reason, if conversion rates with Google are low, with social networks they are much lower. Customer dissatisfaction is greater because the one who buys through a social network usually buys on impulse because they saw an ad. They weren't looking, but an ad appeared on their social network. Normally sales made through social networks are informal commerce. Informal means from a person who does not have a store, who does not manage. Plays a physical place that sells very small items. Payment is on delivery because there's no delivery convenience. It takes time. That 93% of transactions are small products. It is a figure that is even higher than in Colombia. I mean, they are such small products that if you sell flowers, you know that you cannot send flowers by motorcycle. But more than 92% of transactions made through social networks are small items. So you are left with a very small space to sell. That you know what we don't do, we believe is not as important as knowing what we do. And we're going to start showing you the 4 pillars on which we rely to maintain the company. The first pillar is to reduce the cost of acquiring customers. The second pillar is to increase the lifetime of the customers, what the Americans call the lifetime value. The third is to reduce operational costs. And the fourth is to improve e-commerce day by day. It's something we do every day because it's very important for the business we manage. Let's see what the cost of acquiring a customer is. The cost of acquiring a customer is the amount we have to pay to get a customer. And if we review it or turn it into a formula, it would be something like this to get the customers. The cost of acquiring a customer would be equal to CCM, which is the cost of the marketing campaign, while SAM is the salary associated with marketing, which is what I have to pay people to carry out the marketing campaign. The marketing campaign itself is really the campaign, but there must be people behind it whom I have to pay. In addition to that, there is a SP, which are the professional services that must be paid, such as, for example, to make signage, to make a banner, to make business cards. Everything that involves the marketing, I'm going to do. Later on, which are other expenses I must make. If I add up all those expenses or investments and divide them by CA, which is the number of customers I acquire, it gives me the customer acquisition cost. And to understand it a bit more, let's look at an example. If I spend $1,000 in a month, and with those $1,000 I acquire or get 100 clients, it means that each client costs me $10. That is the acquisition cost I paid to get each client in the exercise we just saw. Now let's see how to reduce the cost of acquiring a customer, which is the first goal we set. Because when you start a marketing campaign, you spend a lot of money, and you have to say, since you don't have enough money, we have to think about how to get customers economically, how to reduce their cost. So people boasted because there are companies that run massive marketing campaigns, make extremely large investments, but in the end, they get few customers. So we started with this example. For an e-commerce has 1,000 visits, and it turns out that from those 1,000 visits, in a day, it gets 10 sales. That gives us a conversion rate of 1%, which we already saw is the average conversion rate for an e-commerce. So from 1,000 visits, I get 10 sales. But it turns out that there are e-commerce sites much more efficient that with 100 visits achieve the same number of customers. So they have a conversion rate of 10%. So when you analyze those clients, the more efficient one has certain characteristics. What is the difference between these two e-commerce businesses? The first is the quality of the campaign they run. It's different. It's much better quality. And the second is the quality of the offer. So let's delve a little into those two topics. To decrease the cost of customer acquisition, the first thing to do is optimize the campaigns. And that's where when we started generating marketing campaigns, did, for example, a study. We said that the vast majority of our customers are between 25 and 40 years old. And we said, where do we find customers who are between 25 and 40 years old? We said, well, soccer. Soccer is attractive to young people, so we are going to go there to offer the products we sell. And since the idea is not to go to a stadium, but they already exist, they existed at that time, I'm talking about when we did this at the very beginning, almost 13, 14 years ago. So we went to Facebook and started doing marketing campaigns through pools. A pool is a contest where whoever guesses correctly in the market would win a prize of one of the products we had. We started doing those campaigns, and after about a year we realized that it had grown. I mean, there was an extremely large interaction from people who wanted to participate in the game. But in the end, it turned out that from that number of people who joined and played, almost no one bought anything. So we realized we were wasting our time. Therefore, we stopped doing that campaign because we realized it wasn't an optimal campaign. It wasn't bringing us customers. That was the first mistake we made. It turns out that later we realized that, like in the time when we answered phone calls usually, the customer wants us to generate the order internally. So they would say, please, generate the order for me. I'll give you my details. I'll give you my address. I'll give you my phone number. I'll give you the details of the person who should receive it. There was a moment when we would say to the person, well, tell us what message you want to send. And the person would say, no, honestly, I can't think of anything. Don't you have messages? And because of that, we bought a book of just messages and read to them. If the occasion was a birthday, we would read different birthday options, and the person would choose one, and we would copy that message. So as a result of that, it occurred to us that since it was something necessary, it might be a good strategy to put on the page, on the website, pages, messages of birthday, anniversary messages, messages for sick people, love messages, etc. And we implemented that, and in the end we realized that it was bringing us very good traffic. I mean, there were many people who wanted to find messages to send in case of heartbreak, birthday messages, and many people were coming. But in the end, we did the exercise again and realized that definitely those people were using the platform, but they still weren't buying. I mean, the campaigns we were doing were not optimal, we were not reaching the right customer. So we said, we have to attract the right people at the right time. That's when the idea arises that definitely, when you're a salesperson, you have a dream. And the dream you have is that you wish you could read people's minds so that when someone is thinking about acquiring a product you sell, you can reach that person. It's offer them the product, so you're not going around telling everyone, do you want my product, do you want my product, do you want my product, because that's very exhausting. So the optimal thing is to read the person's mind, to offer it. And it turns out that is search engine optimization, that is SEO. SEO is when a person searches on the internet through Google for a particular product, it's because they definitely want to buy it or have a very high intention. If I offer the product to that person at that moment, it's ideal. So we said, let's delve into SEO because it's a long-term investment and it's about optimizing the campaign. That is, to attract only people who are interested. We did the job poorly and are attracting a lot of people, but it wasn't useful. So one has to look for that type of person who wants to buy, and we realized that the best way is working on SEO, that SEO or SEM, SEO. We focused more on SEO. We already explained why we don't place ads on any type of platform. We don't even place ads on Google. You can have a site that says, batteries for Volkswagen with home delivery in Bogota. So you can optimize this phrase. If you were selling batteries in Bogota only for Volkswagen, you would optimize the phrase batteries for Volkswagen home delivery in Bogota. So the people who arrive there and find that long tail keyword, when they arrive, it's because they are definitely looking us for first, a battery, second, that it's for Volkswagen, and third, that they want it delivered. So that's the kind of relationship we found. Let's continue. Now then, in the first part, we attract people who really want to buy the product that we win them over with. But the sales process does not end there. I can have a lot of people coming to my site wanting to buy a product I have. But if my offer is bad, if I'm offering things that do not meet that customer's requirement, the customer will leave because they are just a click away. So here I am going to explain 10 ways to improve the offer. I mean, we put a lot of effort into finding people to come to our store, but if our offer is not good, we are wasting our time. So here we set out to analyze how to improve the offer so that when people arrive, they actually buy. So the first thing is to have explanatory photographs, and we are going to do the following. Let's go over here and bring the website, which is how we manage it, so we have the photographs. So on the website, we make an effort to place photographs. Let's do it this way. Well, here. So what do we do? First, we show very clear photographs of what we are going to deliver from different angles, because the internet is very impersonal. So one cannot see very clearly what they are buying. The clearer we are, the more at ease the client or potential client will be. So we have the possibility to include different photographs and even have the option to place videos on the website. What else do we include? In the same description, if we look here, we are explaining exactly what we deliver. I, for example, visit some websites that sell products and they don't clarify what they have, how big they are, or what elements will be delivered. In others, we make an effort to do that. For example, here the height is described, the elements that the fruit bowl contains, etc. We do that. Another thing is that we appeal to scarcity, which is very common, for example, indicating that the product is running out. We put that on the website to pressure the person when they're going to buy. And what other way to improve the offer? Provide different payment methods, because you can have everything very well organized. But when the customer enters and says, what payment options do I use? No, you cannot pay. If not in cash, then they say, no, but I'm not in Colombia. There is no other option. So one thing we do is, for example, to pay. Here we have, I'm showing the cell phone here. Well, here on the phone, I'm showing you how we handle the different options. For example, payment. Here are the different options. And if we look, we have 4 different payment options. Here they are. So we have a payment option that is in cash, and the person can pay in cash through Nequi, through DaviPlata. Other options, from the cash point of view, the option to pay from abroad, because if you didn't know, they take away a lot of payments made from abroad, and then you lose many sales. So we put a third alternative, which is this one, with which we also make payments and receive payments from abroad. Let's continue with what else we do. So we have various payment methods. Next, another way to generate the offer is to deliver on the same day. This is really important. We've done exercises with a product, offering a product for delivery the next day or 2 days later. We have, for example, a product that we deliver 2 days later. That product hardly sells. It's impressive how the person is sensitive, wanting to buy for the next day or the same day. For example, when we stop selling at 12 noon for same-day delivery, many customers call us and say, I need an order today, but it has to be for today. And we lose those orders because we can't manage the logistics. So same-day delivery is a very decisive factor in the offer you have for the product. Another thing we do is send coupons or promotions with a very short expiration. That is also important. Through marketing campaigns that we send via email, which is another of the most effective ways to reach the customers we already have. So it's telling them, take this coupon, but it's only valid for 8 days. So it's a way to improve the offer by placing very short-lived promotions. Another very important thing is that the price is competitive. It's no use having a good offer if in the end it's excessively expensive, because the internet customer analyzes a lot before buying nowadays. And analysing is you look at a product and it seems good, but you will go look at the neighbours, you will look at another. A very thorough investigation is done, especially when customers don't have money, which is our case, as we don't have much money to spend on gifts. We want the best, but at a very low price. This point is very important. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you know what percentage of people buy solely based on a recommendation? If they don't have a recommendation, they don't buy. What percentage of people? It turns out that 95% of people need an opinion to buy, and that's why it's very important for you to put others' opinions on your website. So, in ways to improve the offer, it's very important for you to include customer opinions. Another hook that is also super important is that shipping is free. It's how we like things to be free. Shipments are not free because in the end, someone has to pay for them. As a store, in the end, you end up paying for the free shipping, but that's a decisive factor to improve the offer. Another factor to improve the offer that has given us very good results is having the offer in English. It's impressive how it broadens the spectrum. It is very important that you have the offer in English, and we've realised that when the offer is in English, we get a large number of sales from people who only speak English. So it is a definitive factor in the offer. And as an additional value, when serving, we are talking about other ways. Here we are going to talk about an 11th option to improve the offer, which is to have a very fast and efficient online help system. And what does it mean? That when a person has a question, first, a site must be extremely clear to resolve the vast majority of the customer's questions. And second, when the question cannot be resolved, that when the person tries to interact, they do so quickly and receive a very clear response. Well, then we have already seen the ways to reduce the customer acquisition cost, and in summary, it is by attracting only those people who really want to buy. And second, that when we already have them on the website, offer them the best deal so that the person buys. This can be easily achieved. We have achieved conversion rates of almost 18% during peak seasons. In other words, contrary to what they say, that 1% is the average, we have achieved 18% during those peak seasons by accomplishing the double objective. And let's see what increasing the lifetime value is, which is the customer lifetime value, the value of the customer over time. And that is another very important factor, which is the value or profit that a customer represents during the time they are our customer. That's where we forget that we put in a lot of effort to get a customer, not just to attract them, but to make them buy, only to abandon them. So managing to retain a customer we have already gained so that they return is a very important factor in the success of a business. So here we return to the idea that I first want to acquire the customer with very little money and for them to return frequently. How to acquire them with little money? We already saw that to acquire them with little money, the optimal way is to work with search engine optimization. And this point is also important. It's word of mouth. When you have a satisfied customer, that customer will usually recommend you. And the customer who receives the recommendation has a great advantage for us. The customer comes for free. Those customers are free. Now, how do I get a customer to buy frequently? That in a business is a very important factor. That's why restaurant businesses are so good, because people eat every day and eat several times a day. So investing in a restaurant is good because the frequency of purchase acquisition is extremely high. One says that it is not good, for example, to sell a house, to sell an apartment, because a person normally buys an apartment, if things go well, maybe every 4, 5, 6, or once in a lifetime, they don't buy more. So when one sells gifts, it's important to increase the purchase frequency of that customer we have. And how do we increase the purchase frequency? Providing different alternatives in the different seasons. So the customer came to buy a birthday gift, but very likely that customer will also want to buy a Christmas gift, will want to buy a Valentine's gift, will want to buy a funeral gift, etc. So we need to encourage the customer to buy frequently by offering good alternatives to that first option they chose when they were a first-time buyer. This is what allows us to increase the customer's value over time. It's not about having a customer in whom we invested a lot of money to acquire. If a customer for the first time we invest, for example, $10 in the case we already saw, if we invest $10 and they bought from us only once, it turned out to be extremely expensive. But if that same customer we invested $10 to acquire bought from us 3 or 4 times during the year, then we divide those 10 by 4 times. And if not just in 1 year, but in 2, 3, 5 years, they keep buying and we continue dividing that customer cost, the cost of that customer becomes much lower. And how else can we increase the customer's value? So they remain satisfied. It is very important for a customer to remain satisfied, something we often don't understand. We have a customer and we say, well, the customer bought, we already earned 50,000 pesos from the customer and we let them go. It's not very important to keep them satisfied because, as we said, they keep buying from us and recommending us. Now, how do we get a customer to return? So to get a customer to return, we will work on a pre-sale part. The pre-sale part is that if the customer found it very complicated to make the purchase the first time, they will say, no, I'm not going back there. That was extremely complicated. So the pre-sale process for the customer to make the purchase itself has to be very simple. It has to have several payment alternatives, as we already saw. We have to resolve doubts quickly, meaning it has to be extremely easy for the customer to say, yes, I'll go back there because it went excellently for me. Not only during the pre-sale process in the purchase, but also during what we call the post-sale process. The post-sale is after we make the sale, how we behave with the customer. So first of all, we have to deliver the product exactly as it appears in the photos, and we put a lot of effort into that. Then, another process that is very important in the post-sale part is to inform all the time. And when you inform the client all the time, you win in every way. I'm going to explain to you how one benefits. The first thing is at the beginning when we were selling, in the first seasons when we were selling, usually the customer, after making the purchase, would call us and say, do me a favor, we just placed an order. Did you receive it? And then we received a call from a customer who had already purchased and we would say, yes sir, we've received it, thank you very much. Then, on the day of delivery, they would contact us first thing and say, do me a favor, do you remember that I bought a gift from you? Is it ready? Are you going to send it? Then they would call again. They would call, have you delivered it? To whom did you deliver it? And who received it? Then it became a client, it became a very annoying continuous interaction in which it was not very productive, so we decided to inform all the time. Informing all the time means that the system automatically generates emails, where the first thing it does is inform the client that it has already been received. Yes, don't worry, your order has been received, this is your order, so that's what the vast majority of e-commerce sites do. But we resolved a little bit there. In addition to that, we inform the customer when we print, so we say, dear customer, we would like to inform you that we have printed your order. Please review the document together to ensure that all the data is correct, including the address, the delivery people, and the date, because we want to be sure that you are satisfied. Then we send that as a second email, as a third email is. On the day the delivery is to be made, we send an email first thing in the morning and say, we've just dispatched your product. Then they receive a third email saying that their product was dispatched. So they don't need to call us to ask, has it been dispatched? No, they're already informed of that. And finally, we provide the transporter with a tool so that he can send the delivery details from his cell phone, including who received it, the time it was received, whether it was a family member or the recipient. We provide all that information. That's been a success for us because the vast majority of clients, when we ask for their opinion, tell us it was excellent, especially the fact that it kept me informed all the time. In the after-sales part, resolving doubts is also important. So, they received an outlet and don't know how to handle it, don't know what water to use, etc. So, we also made a web page on the website where we clarify how to handle the product and what care needs to be taken. All those kinds of doubts we have to resolve after the sale. Another thing is that we offer the teleoperator what we can fulfill. We have many clients who say, well, I need it delivered at 8 in the morning. What a shame, we do not commit. We commit to delivering between 8 in the morning and 12 noon. We prefer to lose the sale rather than commit to time frames we cannot meet. Lastly, the competitive price, which we already know is important. So we've already seen how to reduce the customer acquisition cost, and now we are going to look at the pillar on which we have based ourselves for the company to function properly, and that is to reduce operating costs. Operating costs are all those. There are fixed costs, like rent, payroll, which regardless of whether one sells or not, have to be paid, utilities like electricity and water in some way, raw materials. And we have reduced to the maximum. As we already explained, we do not have a store. We do not pay for ads. We only make purchases according to what is projected. And that is one of the advantages of working with e-commerce digitally, that we have a history of everything we have sold, absolutely everything. And that allows us to make much clearer projections. If in the year 2005, for example, we sold these products during the love and friendship season, in 2006, it is very similar to what we're going to sell. That is, people tend to buy the same things. Statistically, when one does statistical analyses, everything that happens very often. Just like the cycles of the economy, all of that keeps happening. If on Mother's Day in 2007 we made 80 sales, it's most likely that in 2008 we will make 90. And if we run a more aggressive campaign, we might sell in 100 days. So statistics are very, very important. And the other point to reduce costs, that is also one of the very important factors, is delivery logistics. What is home delivery? And here we are going to delve a little, because if you sell gifts like flowers online, you will know that one of the most costly aspects of selling a product is the delivery, because the delivery is linked to the product. When you sell gifts, it's not like when you go to a regular website, like Mercado Libre, for example. You buy a gift and you expect it to arrive in 2 or 3 days, but you don't expect exactness in the delivery date because you're not buying a gift. So it can arrive in 2 or 3 days, and it's still acceptable for you that the gift arrives. In contrast with flowers and online gift delivery, the delivery of the product is very important. It's extremely connected. Since deliveries are such an important factor in the home delivery of gifts, let's look at what the delivery problem is that we found and what solution we implemented. What are the reasons that make gift delivery critical? Let's see how to solve these types of problems and how we ensure that the delivery personnel are satisfied. Let's see 7 reasons that make gift delivery critical. We already made a summary, but here let's see it in detail. Deliveries depend on dates and schedules. What does that mean? I have to deliver a gift on a specific date. I can't deliver it later. You can sell the most beautiful gift, the most economical gift, the wonderful gift, but if you don't deliver it on the day you were supposed to, it looks bad. It's as if nothing was done, absolutely lost, all the time. So deliveries depend on the dates of the shifts. Satisfaction depends on fulfillment. And there's another factor. We were looking when we started to review how we made the deliveries. We looked at companies, for example, like a Servientrega or those types of companies, and we realized they weren't suitable. Now, for example, due to the internet booming so much, many delivery companies have emerged, and they say, you focus on selling, and I'll take care of delivering. They deliver and offer you the possibility of storing the product, delivering it, and handling all the tracking, inventories, everything. I believe that those types of companies are not suitable for those of us who sell flowers or gifts online. Why? Because we usually sell perishable items. A perishable item is like flowers. We sell fruits. So we can't send that to a company for storage because a flower after 8 days is already dead. Similarly, fruits spoil extremely quickly. Additionally, why don't those types of services work for us? For those who will buy seal, because a gift is usually personalized, meaning it is directed to a particular person, and not only directed but also comes with a message. Therefore, perishable items cannot be stored in warehouses or use that type of service because they spoil. Another thing is that gifts cannot be sent by motorcycle. If you sell flowers, sending a floral arrangement on a motorcycle is a very big risk that the flowers will get damaged. So there's an incompatibility between the gift and the motorcycle. That's why, when I explain to you, those who sell on Facebook, they send everything by motorcycle because they are small and manageable items and can be sent by motorcycle. In the case of gifts, gifts cannot be sent by motorcycle, and we will see later other factors that imply motorcycles are not used. And as we already see, the customer sees, it is very important that the delivery is free. When one sells gifts, it's extremely critical that it be free because distances vary, unless one has very large locations, like restaurants do, which have restaurants distributed throughout the city. One cannot afford that luxury because we are a much smaller business than the potential of a restaurant that sells hundreds of orders a day. So, it is an important factor, the distance that needs to be evaluated. Deliveries are made the same day, and to coordinate same-day delivery, it is difficult to find a transporter to make a delivery. It is incompatible to deliver a delivery. For me, it's not good, because if I'm here in the north and someone wants to buy an order for same-day delivery and it's in the south, I have to pay the transporter amounts in the range of 30 or 40,000 pesos. And if they buy a gift, if the person buys a gift worth 150,000 pesos, almost 30% of what they are buying is being spent on shipping. And if I'm offering free delivery, I will go broke. No, it doesn't work. That's why it's another reason it's critical. How did we solve the problem? We solved the problem in the following way. First, we wanted to make things easy so that when the customer goes to buy, they don't get confused looking at, what do I choose? How do I pay? The ideal would be for the customer, when they arrive, to pay an amount of just mine. I mean, they want to buy a product and tell them, the delivery costs 15,000 pesos, regardless of whether it's in the north, south, or center. So when you sell flowers, you can't handle it that easily, because if I'm in our case, we're in the north and need to make a delivery in the south easily. If it's just one delivery, we have to pay the transporter at least 30 to 40,000 pesos. So if we only charge the person 15,000 pesos, we have to take 25,000 pesos out of our profits, which is something extremely complicated to manage. Our margins are lost in that type of problem, so we solved it by setting up only 3 zones, which is what we are showing there. Another way to solve it is that we modified the website in such a way that we charge depending on the delivery date. If you look here, depending on the place and the delivery date, we charge. If the person buys 1 day in advance, we make the shipping free if it's for the north or the center, and if it's for the same day, then we do charge. So the site allows our interaction in such a way that it knows if it's for same-day delivery or for the next day. And why is it easier for the next day? Because we can create routes, we will explain which routes we can manage, pay by routes, not by deliveries. So this is where it comes in. I'm going to show you something very interesting, which is the following. Wait there, don't go away. Well, here it is. So we did how we solved the problem of the routes, that is, a question we had about how to pay the transporter who helped us was how we calculate the amount we should pay him. And we found that one way to do it is to manage routes so that if a transporter needs to make 3 deliveries, we pay them as if it were a taxi making a first delivery. Then at the second site picks up the product and makes a new trip. We also pay for that second trip. And then the third point starts as if the flag is lowered again and pays again for the new route to the new distance. So that's what we did. And how did we originally manage it? With Google Maps. Well, you know how Google Maps works. It gives the possibility to create routes. I can enter an address. So we manually entered addresses. We would say this first delivery is at such address. We entered it in Google Maps. This second delivery is at this other address, and we placed it there. And then visually we would say, well, the person first has to go to this first point, then to this second point, and then to this third point. And we looked at the data that Google provided, and Google said mention something between the starting point of the flower shop and the first point, it's 6 kilometers. So for each kilometer, we paid a person, let's say, 1,500 pesos. So if it's 5 kilometers, 1,500 times 5 gives us 7,500 pesos. But just like when they said a taxi, there was a minimum. So when the minimum is, we pay the transporter a minimum of between 10 and 12,000 pesos, depending on where they're located, how the route is. So it's a way to attract the transporter and make the payment more efficient, the payment for the routes. So let's see here, for example, this example, there is a real case during a high season of a transporter who had to make a delivery in 1 day, a transporter of 17 points. Here are the 17 points. If we had done it manually, we would have had to input all 17 points in their different addresses, and this is what needs to be delivered. But then, that's where the management of the delivery became extremely complex. So, what did we do? We designed a program in which the system automatically creates a route, the best route. So the system takes all the addresses, as I said, automatically takes all the addresses and uploads them into the system and generates the route. And that's the route it generates, and it generates the optimal route because Google Maps allows optimizing routes in such a way that they are the shortest and take the least amount of time possible. So if we look here, for example, between there is something supremely complicated to define if one had to define it. Manually. This is what Google does. It tells you, follow this route and that route will be economical. So that was the solution we implemented. And then we also generated a PDF file where you can see not only the route, but we are telling the transporter, this in the format we send to the transporter, and we say, you pass by at 7:15 in the morning, you have to take these arrangements, go to the florist at this address. The distance you have to travel is in this case 70.8 kilometers. The estimated time for you to complete this route is 6 hours, 16 minutes, and we will pay you approximately 180,000 pesos. The total payment may be higher. In fact, during peak season, we pay much more because we know. Here it is 17, and imagine that out of 17 deliveries we are paying 180,000, meaning that each delivery, despite being extremely far, like in Ciudad Tunal in San Cristobal, which is far from point A, the starting point, we are only paying 10,000 pesos, and it is the benefit of doing routes with an additional benefit, which is that with same program we have designed allows us to know exactly, not exactly right now, but with a very approximate value at what time each order is being delivered. So look here, for example, out of the 17 deliveries following that route and starting at that time, we estimate that the last delivery, which is quite far, is being delivered by the person at 13:46. We've created an algorithm that is quite accurate and gives us figures very close with a range of between 15 and 20 minutes of error. So that is the way we are solving the problem of the shipping cost of the delivery, which was a super costly factor for us. A flower shop might not know how to handle this. It goes first to when you plan the route, you benefit by optimizing time. Not only optimizing the cost you have to pay, but also optimizing time and making deliveries much faster. That's what we do here next. Well then, we already saw how we pay for routes, not for deliveries, for routes. We have the system automated, as we already saw, which allows it to be done extremely quickly. And this exercise, which you saw earlier, takes us a maximum of 3 minutes to get those results, because it's almost just clicking, and the system automatically does that and gives us the results. And the agility also helps us, especially in the day-to-day, when a transporter comes and the transporter is going to leave, let's say, to the airport area where they're going. And while the transporter is here, another delivery arrives for the airport where they're going. Redoing the route would be complicated, as we used to do before. Not now. If a new order arrives, we tell the transporter, wait 5 minutes. We make the adjustment, and with a couple of clicks, we create the new route, and then we pay the transporter. Well, let's continue. The other way we improved or found the solution to the delivery problem was that at the beginning, how did we do it? We, the transporter, made the delivery, called us on the phone and said, I just delivered. Many times the transporter got tangled up making deliveries, and only when he finished, let's say at 12 noon, starting from 7 in the morning until 12 noon, he remembered and called us and said, such and such order was received by so-and-so at such time, the other order. So it became a repetitive and costly logistical process. And how do we solve it? We now have a way, an application, where the transporter has all the orders on their cell phone, and at the moment of delivery they simply enter the time and the name of the recipient, click, press enter, and the system automatically sends an email, which not only reaches us to determine internally who received it, but also goes to the client. And that freed us from a lot of work, which was previously a super complicated burden, especially during high volume times when we had to make 100, 200 deliveries. Doing that process manually required 2 or 3 people entering it into the system. Not anymore. The transporter, each transporter at a time, has the delivery. Now they just click, and that's it. The orders are generated. Next, let's look at the delivery people. The transporters become a very important participant in the gift delivery business. And it's so important that one must keep them happy, because it's as if they were another employee. Because as long as they are happy, not only do they deliver the products well, but they also come more consistently. When you call him, even if it's just for 3 deliveries or 2 deliveries, he comes diligently and attends to you. So that's why it's important to keep him happy. And how do we keep the delivery person happy? First, make frequent requests, not calling him every 3rd day, every 4th day. But when there is a sufficient sales volume, you can call him every day and often twice a day. So he feels happy about that. That the delivery information is reliable. Reliable information is important, that there are clear procedures. We explain the delivery procedures in detail so that the person knows what to do upon arrival. If the recipient is not there, to whom should they deliver? Who is the second option? If the security guard does not want to receive it, what should they do? All those procedures need to be provided and shown so they have the framework to make decisions when encountering problems during delivery. So still helping him. There are times when all the procedures are followed and then the transporter is worried because he can't deliver and calls someone or contacts us. So we have to help him, that he can't find the address, that this address doesn't match, that there's no one here, and so on. So we have to support him with a lot of clarity. The other point is clarity of payment, because it's not the same if the transporter comes one day and has to deliver 3 blocks away and you pay them. Since it's 3 blocks away, you only pay them with 3,000 pesos, because it's not like you're just around the corner. You pay them 3,000. We are very clear that regardless of the distance, even for a half-block delivery, we pay the minimum, which is 10,000 pesos. In those cases, we pay 10,000 pesos. So it must be extremely clear. Similarly, clarity on how much is given when it is very far. So when it is very far, as we already saw, I will show you again, because you already had it, and I will show you again. Here, for example, in the report you're looking at, it says exactly for the delivery, for example, of order 6263, which is point K, the person has to drive 2.5 kilometers in their car. It takes about 12 minutes to get from the previous order to this one, and we pay them 10,000 pesos. So the transporter is very clear about how much they're being paid for each of the services. Next, clarity in payment. Another way we help the delivery person to be happy is by building the best route for them. Because at the beginning, when we give the transporter 6 deliveries, they didn't know where to go or where to start, nor which route to follow. He was lost, and someone would call him, what do I do, and what delivery is next? So when the best route is not obtained, not only does it take longer to deliver, but it also becomes more costly for the transporter, because he goes from one place to another, and is not taking the shortest routes, which is what we do when we build the best route. Ease of the reports, as we already told you. The transporter has an easy way to report each report on their cell phone.